Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Thursday. We are with you for the next 3 hours, a jam-packed edition of 580 Sports Talk here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. However you are listening to or watching the program, whenever you are catching this edition of the show, thanks for being a part of 580 Sports Talk, and welcome in. We're glad to have you aboard. My name is Dan Lucero. The gang will be around, but it's just me to start. And like I mentioned, there is no shortage of stuff to talk about on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. We are with you until 6 o'clock. No Royals baseball tonight. Boys in blue are off with a 3-game set looming this weekend against the Chicago White Sox. And based on what's the bit? I screwed up the joke already from Major League. In case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance at Rate Field, their fans haven't. The White Sox have won a couple of games since the All-Star break. They played 500-ish ball since the All-Star break. Pushovers no more, perhaps. The Southsiders coming to Kauffman Stadium in a situation where the Royals really need to treat the White Sox like the pushovers that they have been for the better part of the last season and a half. We will talk some baseball on the program today, but lots of football on the show. We are a day away from preseason game number 2 for the Kansas City Chiefs, but more crucially, we are a day removed from training camp. Training camp ended yesterday. The dorms have been vacated at Missouri Western State University. The students, unsuspecting, walking into a dorm room that may have been used by Travis Kelce. There may have been linemen hanging out and having a good time in one of the dorm rooms that an unsuspecting college freshman is going to walk into whenever move-in happens at Missouri Western State. I'm not going to pretend to know when that is. But training camp is over with. So what did we learn? I got a list of 5 things that I think we can take away from training camp, including what I thought ended up being the most interesting quote of training camp, and it didn't come from a player, and it didn't come from a coach. So we'll talk about what we learned from Chiefs camp and what we learned today about Rashee Rice and when he can expect to be punished by the NFL, and what that means for the first 4 weeks of this upcoming season. I'll just dispense with it in case you haven't heard the news. It means Rashee Rice is playing. First 4 weeks, at the very least, of this NFL season, Rashee Rice is going to play. And then he'll have his disciplinary meeting. Apparently, that was when they could fit it into the schedule. I'm not making that up. I'm not saying that snarkily. That is when the person in charge of conducting those disciplinary hearings could work it into her schedule. So Rashee Rice will have a disciplinary meeting, but it won't be till September 30th. And if there's no meeting, no hearing until the 30th, then there's no punishment until at least the 30th. There are 4 Chiefs games, including 2 pretty important ones. Well, 3, really. I don't mean to shortchange the opener against the Chargers in AFC West still, but obviously monster games against the Eagles and the Ravens. Rashee Rice is going to be available for those. We know that now. So obviously that's a pretty big deal, and we will discuss that on the program today. Also, we'll continue our countdown to Chiefs kickoff. We are 22 days away from the start of the Chiefs regular season, that aforementioned Chiefs-Chargers tilt in Brazil. And number 22 for the Chiefs is Trent McDuffie. Is there another step for Trent McDuffie to take? I think there is. I don't know if he'll make it, but there's one more place that Trent McDuffie can get to as a player. If he doesn't get there, he's already one of the best corners in the league. But there's one last leap, and we get to see him try to make that leap this year. And I'm excited to see it. And again, this is the pinnacle of the profession, is the leap that we're trying to see, or I'm suggesting we could see from Trent McDuffie. What he is already without making that leap is still one of the very best and most versatile cornerbacks in the NFL, and somebody that the Chiefs are going to pay and lock up and have in that uniform for a very long time. But it's fun to think about, what if he makes the leap? They say no man is an island. What if Trent McDuffie is an island? Well, we'll get to that a little bit later on in the program. We'll talk some college football today because I spent the early portion of this afternoon in lovely Lawrence, Kansas at KU Football Media Day. While I didn't get a chance to hang around and speak with any of the players today, I did hear from Lance Leipold and offensive coordinator Jim Zebrowski and defensive coordinator DK McDonald. We'll play you some of that audio. We won't play you the full 30-minute press conference that Lance Leipold held today, but we'll play you some choice cuts. Lance Leipold had some interesting things to say about the new stadium, which, by the way, you'll hear Lance Leipold make this point. But how many times have you seen like the drawings for a new stadium, the renderings for what a new stadium is going to look like, and then they build the new stadium? It doesn't really look anything like that. The best example of this, Globe Life Field in Arlington, where the Rangers play, the Texas Rangers. You look at the renderings for that ballpark and you look at how it turned out. It's like the My Plans 2020 meme, if you remember that one from back in 2020. It was going to be this beautiful, glossy, open air, lots of space, greenery, and it ended up looking like a big shed. It's a deeply unimpressive building. Didn't come close to hitting the marks on the renderings. But Lance Leipold noticed this, and I did too, because I had not been, I've seen it from afar. I've seen it driving on I-70. I've seen the light towers, light standards going up on I guess that's the north side of the stadium, the half of the bowl that will be complete for the 2025 season. But this was my first time getting to see it like up close, like walk and park and drive up to the stadium. And man, they hit the marks. Like, you go look at the renderings, you go look at what they thought it was going to look like. That's what it looks like. And credit to the construction folks, credit to managing expectations, I suppose. But it looks great. It is gonna gleam when it opens up in 9 days against Fresno State. I can't wait to see that place up close and personal and be inside it for KU games this year. But anyway, Lance Leipold talked about that. Talked about some injury situations. One name he mentioned, definitely going to be one worth monitoring going into week 0. There are some other things that he talked about as well that I thought were pretty interesting. We'll play you some Jim Zebrowski and DK McDonald audio too later in the show as KU football held their media day. K-State football may not have a classic media day because, well, their first game is not in the United States. So that complicates matters a little bit, but I'm sure there'll be a season opening press conference for Chris Kleiman, and we'll bring that to you when it happens. But we do have plenty from Big 12 football media day today. Two great guests on today's program coming up bottom of this hour. Rick Peterson, TopSports.news, for the local sports spotlight. We're just about to the point of practice for fall sports across the state of Kansas. So we'll dig into that a little bit with Rick Peterson, as well as a report that the city of Topeka is trying to get back into the business of hosting state championship events at Stormont Vale Event Center. We will discuss that with Pistol as well. He'll join us bottom of this hour for the local sports spotlight. And although he will be 30,000 feet above us on his way to Seattle for tomorrow's second preseason game for the Kansas City Chiefs, we will hear from Mitch Holthus of the Chiefs, the voice of the Chiefs, for a training camp report presented by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Mitch sent us a training camp report with another player for Nitty Gritty Week, as he is calling it. So that's coming up at about 5:25. Plus, all of our typical Thursday shenanigans on the show, our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll do either or over under, have a round of what is wrong with you as well. We want to hear from you. I want to hear from you throughout the program. You can get at us on the text line. 785-272-9429 is that number. 785-272-9429 is the number to give us a call or shoot us a text. And we love reading your texts throughout the show. You can also get at us in the YouTube comments. Our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. We are broadcasting live on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. Go subscribe if you have not already. We're 18 subscribers shy of the big arm wrestling duel between myself and Brendan Dworzinski. So if you have not subscribed to the YouTube yet, today's the day to go and do it. get us closer to the arm wrestling brawl to end it all between Dan Lucero, that's me, and Brendan Dworzinski, which will be live on the YouTube channel. And when you're over there, when you're over watching the live YouTube stream, hop in the live chat and interact with your hosts, interact with your fellow listeners, grow the 580 Sports Talk community in the YouTube chat at 580 Sports Talk. Good afternoon to Ryan. See Mark H. and Vance are in. Andrew's in as well. Good to see you guys. Look forward to hearing from more of you throughout the show in that live chat on our YouTube stream. Andrew asks an interesting question to lead our Chiefs discussion today in the YouTube chat. Appreciate this, Andrew. Random question for everyone, Andrew says. Were you more excited for Taylor Swift on the New Heights podcast or the premiere of The Kingdom on ESPN tonight? If you're a Chiefs fan, what were you more excited for? Probably if you're more interested in the football, you might be more excited about The Kingdom. I think all 6 episodes are going on ESPN Plus tonight. ESPN is going to run the first 2, at least the premiere. It's the 6-episode documentary about not just the 2024 Chiefs, but also the history of the franchise. And looks really good. I've read some good reviews. Jesse Newell said it was really good over at The Athletic. I trust Jesse implicitly. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm not going to blow through all 6 episodes tonight, so I will not give you a full review of things, but I'm looking forward to watching that for sure. I have not watched the New Heights podcast with Taylor Swift. I don't know if I have that in me. I'm just not that interested in Taylor Swift. I'm a 38-year-old man, after all, but rave reviews for that. Apparently it broke the internet last night. Apparently broke YouTube. It was very funny to see Jason Kelsey surprised by this on social media. At one point, I think there were 1.3 million live viewers of the podcast. And Jason Kelsey's like, whoa, holy expletive. There are so many people watching this. It's like, yeah, dude, your brother's girlfriend, pretty famous. In case you weren't aware, that woman your brother is dating is the most famous woman in the world. I don't think that's up for debate. I think she's the most famous woman in the world. So it did some numbers last night. I did not watch the live stream. I think Spencer did. I think Spencer and his girlfriend watched it last night. So when Spencer gets in later today, we'll get his thoughts. But I will watch The Kingdom before I watch the podcast. I have found that I enjoy the New Heights podcast a couple of minutes or a couple of clips at a time. But that's how I am with a lot of podcasts. So don't take it personally, Travis and Jason. Please don't hurt me or anything. But important question. Here's the other question I wanted to tackle with regard to the Chiefs today. Pun absolutely intended. As camp has broken and the Chiefs are headed up to the Pacific Northwest to take on the Seattle Seahawks in the second preseason game tomorrow night. Camp is broken. What'd you learn? 5 things that I learned from Chiefs camp. Number 1, there was 0 Super Bowl hangover with this team. This was an all-business camp from the first day to the last, and you'd expect nothing less with a camp run by Coach Andy Reid, and you'd expect nothing less with a team that is as veteran as this group is, that has been through it as often as they have, that has the expectations that they have. But this was a group that in unison. They didn't seem stung or hurt or bothered by Super Bowl 59. There are a couple of questions about it on the first couple of days or maybe even back in the summer. But by and large, that is emphatically in the rearview mirror. Nobody's thinking about it. Nobody's gone into this camp thinking, well, we failed in Super Bowl 59. And so things have to be different. I think you can handle defeat one of 2 ways. You can panic about it a little bit and say, "Oh man, we were outclassed by the Philadelphia Eagles," which was true over the course of that 60 minutes. They were outclassed in Super Bowl 59. But you can look at that and say, "Man, we were outclassed, and so we better look and figure out what it's going to take to beat that team again if we play them." And we got to overhaul, we got to rethink a lot about what it is that we do. And I think a lesser franchise, a less accomplished franchise, a less accomplished group of leaders probably does react in that way. But the Chiefs handled this maturely from the very beginning. From when the confetti started falling in the Superdome, they've handled this the right way. They said, look, we're not going to make any excuses. We got our butts kicked. But you know what? We went 17-2 in games we were trying to win. We've won 3 consecutive AFC championship games. We had won 2 consecutive Super Bowls. Our process is still a pretty good process. We just weren't very good in that game. That's it. That's the mature way to handle it. Not, sometimes you lose a Super Bowl and it throws you into a bit of an identity crisis. And I think both times that the Chiefs have lost Super Bowls, they have emerged not with an identity crisis, but with a more steely resolve and an understanding of, hey, we just weren't real good in that game. And it's unfortunate, but we don't get it back, right? Can't play that game again. It's gone. So what do we do to get better for the next one? Very mature and veteran response, and you'd expect nothing less. But just in case you were worried, there was no Super Bowl hangover. That was the first thing I learned from Chiefs camp. Second thing I learned from Chiefs camp, Patrick Mahomes means business. In case you were not clear on this, I direct you to Nate Taylor's article over at ESPN.com today. That is friend of the show, Nate Taylor, former beat writer at The Athletic. He replaced Adam Teicher over at ESPN in case you missed that bit of media news. And he's got a whole article about Patrick Mahomes today and how Mahomes has raised his game another level for 2025. And there are some tidbits in here about some of the mechanics, footwork, work with your hips, throwing from a steady base. There's a bunch of real granular mechanic stuff that Mahomes has worked on as a player. And, of course, there's lots to talk about when it comes to pushing the ball downfield, being more explosive in the passing game, and all of those things. But the details in this article that, and the one that stood out to me the most was talking about the Super Bowl in a situation early in the game where the Chiefs got a one-on-one deep opportunity with Xavier Worthy, and they didn't take it. Mahomes didn't take it. Mahomes checked it down to Juju Smith-Schuster and completed a deep ball and completed the short pass instead of going for the deep shot. And as you saw later in the game, the deep balls were there. It didn't matter at the time. It was 40-6 by the time the Chiefs got the deep connection rolling. But the quote from Mahomes from the article, sometimes you try to do too much when you have too much information. I felt at times these last few years I've done that, just being smart and being able to see stuff. But it's football. If you think it's one-on-one and your guy can beat that guy, let him have a chance to make a play. I think there has been not enough of that. We could talk all we want about the go ball, the deep shot, all of those things. But it starts with the quarterback trusting it. And yes, there are elements of that are involve the offensive line, involve the receivers, and both of those have been at times and to varying degrees substandard the last couple of years. But when you drop back, you got a one-on-one, you got to trust your wide receiver is going to beat that DB and make a play. Every now and again, just let it rip. Just let it rip. And the mechanical stuff that they talk about in the article also suggests that Mahomes worked on all of that with an eye on being more accurate with his deep passes, because he wasn't particularly accurate on the deep ball and really hasn't been for a couple of years. We know he's got the arm. If now he's got a little bit more willingness and a little bit more accuracy and the best wide receiver core he's had since prime Tyreek and Travis early in his career, I think that's going to result in some really, really good things for Patrick Mahomes. Maybe a third MVP. I'm just throwing that out there. It's always a possibility when you're talking about number 15. What else did I learn at Chiefs camp? Number 3, talent identification in the organization remains top-notch. The Chiefs are going to end up cutting guys from this camp who are legitimate NFL players and who are going to catch on with other teams in a variety of roles. And a lot of the guys that they're going to cut and who are going to end up on other teams, on other 53-man rosters, are guys that were either day 3 picks or undrafted free agents. Guys like Joshua Williams is a name that's been on the chopping block for a lot of camp. And he just hasn't performed as well as the other 9 or 10 defensive backs that are ahead of him in the pecking order right now. So Joshua Williams, who's played good football for the Chiefs, won Super Bowls, plural, 4th-round pick, he's going to go make another team pretty happy. Whether he's picked up after cuts or whether the Chiefs find a taker in a trade, that's a legit guy that the Chiefs just don't have room for. there are legit guys, it appears, in the wide receiver room that the Chiefs don't have room for. A former second-round pick in Sky Moore. Maybe Nico Remigio. If the Chiefs let him get away, somebody's going to pick him up. I would bet if he doesn't make the team that Carson Steele finds a 53-man roster spot somewhere. These are guys not heralded, third-round or UDFA guys, and the Chiefs just keep finding them and making competition for the roster spots that much more intense. And it's a testament to, even though you would think, and it would be understandable if this were the case, because this happens to a lot of high-level organizations where you keep the main guy in charge. Brett Veach is the constant, but you've got the brain drain, right? Ryan Poles leaves. Mike Borgonzi leaves. These guys who've been important lieutenants to Brett Veach leave the organization to go get their own opportunities to run teams, because teams look at the Chiefs and say, well, I want some of what they're having. But they continue to identify guys who can really play each and every year. They do it. There hasn't been any appreciable brain drain effect in the Chiefs front office. What else did I learn at Chiefs camp? Thing number 4, the most interesting quote that anybody gave at media availabilities during training camp. It wasn't a player. It wasn't a coach. It was Mike Bradway, the assistant general manager. I talked a little bit about this with Mitch Holthus yesterday on our training camp report, where Mike Bradway was asked about the wide receiver room. And it was in the context of talking about wide receivers that he said, and I'm paraphrasing the comment here, but he talked about building like you would a basketball team, where you don't have a bunch of guys who all do the same stuff on a basketball team, right? You don't have 12 6'5" combo guards on an NBA team, right? You need somebody who can guard the post or score inside. You need ball handlers. You need floor stretchers. You need some length. You need defensive guys, 3-and-D guys. You need veterans and young players. You need a mix. And you can't just have a bunch of guys who all do the same thing. And so Bradway said that in the context of that's why it's felt so competitive in the wide receiver group as to who's going to make the 53-man roster, because they have so many different kinds of players that they can pick from. But I think you see that at every position with the Chiefs. I think you see that in the defensive backfield with the versatility on display there. A bunch of guys who can play in different spots. I think you see that at linebacker. Look at the 3 starting linebackers for the Chiefs. Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill, Leo Chanel. Are those the same guy, the same kind of player? No. They all have complementary skills. Chanel can do things that Bolton can't do, that Tranquill can't do. But they complement each other. Running back room. It's a little less complimentary than they'd like it to be, which is why they're still looking for a third down back. But again, it's not 5 Isaiah Pacheco's trying out for the team. I thought it was so revealing as to how the Chiefs build their roster, how intentional they are with the players that they bring into camp, and another reason, another portion of the secret sauce for their success. I thought that was the most interesting thing anybody said at camp. The last thing I learned at Chiefs camp, Joshua Simmons is a medical marvel. I hesitate to use the term miracle, but marvel, 100%. That fits. You'd asked me in April how I felt about that draft pick. I wasn't wild about it. Wasn't doing backflips. I didn't think it was the right direction for the Chiefs to go. I think they needed a contribution from their first-round draft pick in 2025, and I did not think an offensive lineman who had torn his patellar tendon the October previous was going to be somebody who could contribute. Well, the Chiefs like the medicals enough to gamble on the talent, and they might be rewarded with a franchise left tackle. Way early in the game to say that definitively, but the early returns couldn't be better. And the fact that we're even talking about him playing in preseason games and being the nailed-on Week 1 starter, that is modern medicine, something else. I'll just say that. So that is what I have learned from Chiefs camp. What did you learn from Chiefs camp as a fan, as an observer? Text us, 785-272-9429. Put your thoughts in the YouTube chat as well over at our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. We're going to take our first break. We'll come back, continue our Chiefs countdown to kick off with number 22, as we're 22 days away. Rick Peterson is going to join us in just a little bit for the local sports spotlight. Mitch Holthus has a training camp report at 5:25. We are just getting started on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk, and we're back after this. 334 on 580 Sports Talk. A good question, I think, from Darren in the YouTube chat. Welcome in, Darren. Great to see you. Asks, regarding what we've seen from Mahomes the last couple of seasons, how much do you believe this is on Matt Nagy being too conservative? I see a lot of differences since he came back in as offensive coordinator. I think you could argue that there's a little bit of a coincidental factor there, too, because Nagy coming back as the offensive coordinator coincided with the Chiefs having the worst group of receivers that they've had in the Mahomes era, and then maybe having the worst offensive line situation they've had in the Mahomes era. Because I think those two things have been bigger factors in the Chiefs' passing game, such as you consider it, having taken a step back, having done so the last 2 years. I think there's a lot of factors, and it's no one person's fault. But I do think that last year there was a tendency, and I think it was on all parties, Reed, Nagy, and Mahomes, to be a little bit conservative, to sacrifice explosion for efficiency. And you can't argue with the result, right? I mean, they went to the Super Bowl. It's not like they were bad. They just weren't great in the way we are used to them being great. And if they can get back to being great in that way, they can still win a lot of games. They'll just be a little bit more comfortable. I think that's what you'd like to get back to, right? Some comfortable wins. You'd like to win 31-17 instead of 19-17 every now and again for everybody's sake. Appreciate the question, Darren. It's 22 days until Chiefs kickoff, week 1 in Brazil against the Chargers. Number 22 of the Chiefs, of course, is Trent McDuffie. We already know he's elite. He's going to get paid like an elite cornerback, potentially very soon. Doesn't look like it's going to happen before the season starts, but you never know. But the Chiefs are going to pay him, and he is a long-term piece for this Chiefs team. A chance to be a Ring of Honor guy. Already an all-pro under his belt as a slot corner 2 seasons ago. What's the next step? There's only one level above where Trent McDuffie is, and that's rarefied air. That's the level where if that guy's on one side of the field, there is no that side of the field as far as the other offense is concerned. And only the best of the best, the Hall of Famers, get to that level. Darrelle Revis Island. Richard Sherman was this kind of player in his heyday. Very few guys get to this rarefied air where the half of the field they're on is closed. I'm not even going to try it. Why try? Because that corner is stuck to my guy like glue, or he's going to pick the ball off, and I'm just not going to mess with it. Is that level within Trent McDuffie? Because to me, that's the only step forward he can make. If he maintains, if Trent McDuffie is just the 2024 Trent McDuffie for the next 5-6 years of his career, he's going to the Ring of Honor. Like, he's one of the very best to ever play the position for the Chiefs. Like, the standard is already super high. There's one more rung. There's that rarefied air above the clouds. Can he be an island like a Darrelle Revis, like a Richard Sherman in their primes? That's a hard thing to be. It's a really hard thing to be in the modern NFL. But we get to see him try this year because he'll be the outside cornerback. There won't be any moving him around as far as, well, sometimes maybe he'll be in the slot. And I'm not going to say he'll never line up in the slot, but by and large, he's going to be on the outside. And we're going to see a lot of him out there, and we get to see how he can grow in that capacity. So I'm really excited to see where Trent McDuffie goes from here because he's still such a young player and he's such a cerebral player. And if he does get to that level, it will be because he's a smart player in addition to being a tremendous athlete at the position. We'll take another break here on 580 Sports Talk. Rick Peterson joins us next for the local sports spotlight on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined in the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by the great Rick Peterson of TopSports.news for the local sports spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. We do it every Thursday at this time. Pistol covers Shawnee County High School athletics and the Washburn Ichabods for TopSports.news. And Pistol, we'll start with the Ichabod since you've got some great new pieces up at TopSports.news about two sports that have enjoyed a lot of success both historically and recently at Washburn, volleyball and women's soccer. I want to start with volleyball. It'll be a bit of a different year for them this year as far as their home games go. They won't be playing at Lee Arena as the remodel there continues, but still a lot of optimism and should be another strong year for Chris Herron's bunch.
Yeah, obviously, Chris and the girls would rather be in their traditional home, but I was over there Monday for the first day of practice and seemed to be business as usual. They're making some changes in there to get, bleachers in there and all that. And I they're going to do fine. They're going to do fine. And then when they go into 26, they'll have a really nice new and improved home, if you will.
Went 21-8 last year, went to the NCAA tournament, and obviously in the MIAA, and given the program's history, that's kind of the standard, like the almost, I don't want to say bare minimum, that doesn't feel quite right, but that is the expectation. You get to the NCAA tournament. How confident is this group that they've got the pieces to do that and maybe make some noise in that tournament?
I think very confident. I talked to Chris for quite a while the other day, and they lost Jalen Stevenson, who was a four-time All-MAA honoree and three-time first-team All-MIAA honoree, but they got a ton back, and and Chris Herron really likes their newcomers. So I think they're going in with the same expectation, like you said, as they always have, to make it to the NCAA tournament.
Rick Peterson of TopSports.news, our guest here. This is the local sports spotlight on 580 Sports Talk. The women's soccer program at Washburn does not have the same luxury of having a lot of pieces back. In fact, it's quite the opposite for Davey Phillips's program. His team has won back-to-back MIAA championships. 2 years ago, obviously went to the national championship match. This is a really fascinating litmus test, I think, for that program this year to see if they can continue the momentum forward, even with a whole lot of new faces.
Yeah, and, they got good leadership with players like Belle Kennedy, McKinley Roan, players that have been key cogs for that team. For Belle, this is her fourth year. For McKinley, it's her third year. And some others that are really good. Some others that had earned All-MIAA mention last year. But the thing that I really got when I talked to Davey Phillips on Monday is he just really, really likes this group of newcomers that they brought in to replace the graduated seniors. And I don't think they're expecting to miss a beat. And some of those are that they brought in are names that are very familiar to local soccer fans, with Kate Hink and Destiny Higgs, who led Washburn Rural to their first ever 6A girls state title. And Davey told me that they got several others in that same boat that were part of state championship teams last year in either Nebraska or Kansas. So I think he's thinking that a lot of those girls can step right in.
Rick Peterson joining us for the local sports spotlight. Let's pivot to high school sports, Pistol. Last week we talked about some of the players to watch, teams to watch in the area in football and volleyball and boys soccer. I want to look at some of the other fall sports that are coming up in the area. Cross country, the big story obviously is it's Ryan Miller's senior season. And what does she do to cap off what has already been one of the all-time great careers, not just in the capital city, but really in the state of Kansas in terms of her running ability. She was the cross-country runner of the year last year, even though she finished as a runner-up at the state meet. I got to imagine there's a lot she'd like to accomplish, but making sure that that's the top of the podium at state, that might mean a little something extra to Ryan for her senior year.
That's really the only thing missing. I mean, and she's got 5 individual titles in track, but she hasn't quite got there in cross country yet, and losing to very, 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 very good runner from Salina Central. That's nothing to hang your head about. But I know she wants to finish every. When you're a senior, you really want to save your best for last, and I think she wants to have a great senior year.
And she'd like to have some company at the top of the podium in boys cross country. Brody Anderson at Seaman is maybe the best hope for a boys state individual championship after he was 9th in the 5A state meet last year. He headlines a really good crop of runners on the boys side, including Hayden sophomore Nick Newkirk, who we know his brother was a standout in cross country, and Nick seems like he might be following a similar path.
Yeah, Nick had a really good freshman year, and I expect him to step up this year. You mentioned Brody, who was 3rd in track in the 800. This is only his 3rd year of cross country, so I think he's still growing, and I think he'll be really good this year. And then Washburn Rural is going to be boys are going to be really good. They got a lot back, and they've been the team to beat in the city, and I think they will be again this year.
Rick Peterson joining us for the local sports spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. Hayden girls golf brought home the big gold last year. Silver Lakes girls just missed out in Class 3A. We know Washburn Rural always excellent in 6A. Seaman has some talent back in 5A. Could be a good year on the Lynx on the girls' side in Shawnee County.
Well, and hey, let's start with Seaman. Seaman picked up a 3-time 5A state medalist in Elise Eckert, who transferred from Emporia. Both her parents got jobs up in Topeka, and right away, I mean, she's probably her and Lauren Borgione are probably the girls to beat in the city this coming fall.
In girls tennis, graduate a state champion that led the way out at Hayden, as they have been excellent the last couple of seasons, won the team title, as I mentioned last year. Ainsley Zululeta, the state champion on the number 1 singles side. And Hayden does bring back quite a bit of talent. Seaman and Topeka High also looking like they have some strong returning nucleuses as well.
Yeah, I think Seaman, it's probably before we even, serve the first ball, they're probably the team to beat in the city this year. They got 2 really good singles players back. They had perfect team scores en route to UKC and regional titles last year. I believe they were 3rd as a team in 5A. So they're really good. And then, like you said, now you never count out Hayden. You never count out Washburn Rural. Topeka High's got a good singles player and a good doubles team to build around, and so it'll be fun. I enjoy city tennis. Is always very good.
Couple more questions for Rick Peterson of TopSports.news. Joins us every Thursday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the local sports spotlight. Pistol, there has been a bit of a point of contention, and maybe disappointment is the better word for it, that some of the bigger state tournament events have not been in Topeka for a handful of years. State basketball obviously hasn't been in Topeka for some years. There appears now to be some interest, at least on the part of some locals, in seeing if they can get state volleyball to come to Stormont Vale Event Center. What do you know about that as maybe being a possibility?
Well, I think it's a possibility, and I've talked to people from the Topeka Shawnee County Sports Commission, and they would really like to see it. And obviously, it would be good for the city. They just have, hey, they didn't ask for my advice, but here's my advice: get your ducks all in a row, which they didn't have in a row when they lost the state event. And obviously, this is a brand new company, management. And I think they'll do a great job, but get everything, make a really good case for why Topeka should have these state events. And I think they have an excellent chance of getting them.
I think it's a really easy case to make, too, and not just location-wise, but I think that Stormont Vale Event Center, a lot of work's been put into that venue. It's a perfect size. Sometimes some of those bigger venues at, like, state basketball, when you get into, like, Coke Arena in Wichita for 6A, and it's too big, and it just kind of swallows up the energy of the place. I don't think you have that with the arena at Stormont Vale. I really do think that it makes a lot of sense in so many ways, and I'd really love to see it get back in the rotation for basketball. But volleyball would be a great way too to prove that, hey, this is a venue that can handle multiple classes and to be an appropriate size and an appropriate venue.
Yeah, and if they and you know, hey, let's say you get volleyball, you do a great job with volleyball. Well, you have an even better chance of getting basketball. So like I said, I hope to get it. I mean, hey, I wouldn't mind going 10 minutes to cover a state tournament.
Listen, cover state.
I'd be okay with that.
Covering state and sleeping in your own bed. Those were the days. I only got to do that for a couple of years when I got out here, but those were the days. Rick Peterson of TopSports.news joins us every Thursday for the local sports spotlight. We talk about the latest in Shawnee County High School sports and Washburn-Ichabod athletics. Pistol, when we do this next week, people are going to be practicing. Like, practice is happening. Yeah. We are almost there. So look forward to doing it again next week.
I'll look forward to it.
That is Rick Peterson. We'll step aside for a timeout. Come back. We will wrap up this hour 580 Sports Talk after this. Thanks again to Rick Peterson of TopSports.news for joining us for the local sports spotlight. And speaking of local sports, as good a time as any to let you folks know that beginning Monday over at our website, 580wibw.com, we start rolling out our Pigskin and Hoops football previews. It's 39 years of Pigskin and Hoops from WIBW. This will be the second straight year it is an online-only publication, but we will publish 28 previews of local schools here in Northeast Kansas, and we will publish football previews. We'll go 3 a day on average for the next 2 weeks starting Monday. We'll go in reverse alphabetical order this year. That was an executive decision made by the publication's editor, me. We're going in reverse alphabetical order this year. That means Washburn Rural, you've always had to wait. You have to wait this year. You get to be on the first day. you and Wabaunsee and Valley Falls on Monday. Those will be the first previews that we publish, and we'll go in reverse alphabetical order until we get to Care Paravel and Burlingame on the other side of that. But our Pigskin and Hoops football previews coming to our website exclusively, 580wibw.com. Be checking every day for the new previews that post starting Monday. Follow us on Facebook at WIBW News. Follow us on X and on Blue Sky at 580 Sports Talk, and we'll publish them there. And you can read them, and you can, if you're so inclined, share them to your own Facebook pages. Send them to grandma who lives in Upper Iowa who doesn't get a chance to maybe see her grandson who plays at Care Paravel and really would like to read more about her team. Send them that way. We really appreciated and were encouraged by the amount of response we did get on our social channels, the amount of sharing we did get via social for these previews last year. So we're doing it again, online only, but the Pigskin and Hoops magazine, such as it is back for 2025, starting with our football previews, and we're going to start rolling them out on Monday. So keep your eyes peeled at our website, 580wibw.com, our Facebook page, WIBW News, and our social channels, X and Blue Sky. Find us at 580 Sports Talk. Coming up at the 4 o'clock hour, it was KU Football Media Day, so we're going to hear from Lance Leipold. We'll also talk about the Royals. Is 500 the ceiling for this team? That's next on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. So glad you're with us on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And a special welcome to those of you checking out our video stream, our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, our Facebook page, WIBW News. My name is Dan Lucero. I'm solo for most of the day today, but keep an eye out for the gang. They may or may not be popping their heads in. We're with you until 6 o'clock tonight. No Royals baseball. They are off before they open a stretch of 11 consecutive days with a game tomorrow night. First game of 3 against the Chicago White Sox. So we'll talk some Royals baseball later this hour. Royals bonked their head on the 500 mark again. They keep doing that. They've had a really nasty habit so far in August of getting to 500 and then immediately losing. They got to 500 with their win Tuesday night and then gacked that one up on Wednesday afternoon against the Nationals to fall one game below 500 at 60-61. And it is beginning to beg the question, is that just kind of the ceiling? Is that the glass ceiling for this Royals team right now, as presently constructed? I kind of think it might be. And honestly, I think that's a credit to a lot of people that the Royals have a hard ceiling, it feels like right now, of being about a 500 ball club, given what they've gone through this season. It's not looking like it's going to be good enough to make the playoffs. And look, that was the standard based on last year. So this has been a disappointment. There's no other way to categorize the 2025 season for the Royals other than to say it has been a disappointment. But that it has not been a bigger disappointment, I think there's some tips of the cap that should be handed out for that, because some of the circumstances the Royals have dealt with this year, it could be way worse. And that is cold comfort when you're watching the playoffs from your couch in October. But cold comfort is still comfort to some. So I want to talk about that, though. Like, why is it that this team feels kind of capped at 500? That they do not seem to be able to get over that hump. We also got What Is Wrong With You coming up later on this hour. 2 news stories today to compete on What Is Wrong With You. We had to scotch yesterday's What Is Wrong With You. That Royals game took forever, so we had to punt it, which means I had a good story lined up, and I got to save it today. So you'll get to hear it today instead. Want to hear from you as we go on the program today. Hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. Love hearing from you on the text line. Also, welcome those of you who are in on the YouTube chat. If you're watching live on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. If you're not watching live, why not? Go check it out. The YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. We stream every day. I dressed up. I look sharp today. I put gel in my hair, everything. I'll explain why in a minute, but I look good today. I'm not embarrassed that there's a camera trained on me while I talk today. I rarely am, but I look good. I look good. Come see how good. Everyone come see how good I look. In all seriousness, we do stream the show every day on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. And if you've never streamed it before, 2 reasons you should. Number 1, you should go and check it out and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because when we get to 800 subscribers, we were at 782 when we started the show today. We get to 800 subscribers, and me and Brendan Dworzynski are going to arm wrestle. Apologies to the grammarians out there and the English teachers who are maybe just getting off of work, one of their first days of school, and turning on the radio today. Apologies to the English teachers. Brendan Dworzynski and I are going to arm wrestle when we get to 800 YouTube subscribers. So go subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. This is a totally true story. When I was doing college radio, I got an email from an English professor that I frequently did not use the appropriate blank and me or blank and I. You know, they're rules, right? They're grammatical rules for that. And apparently when I was doing play-by-play in my early days of college radio, Yes, tape exists. No, you can't hear it. Apparently, I got it wrong a lot. I got it wrong enough for an English professor to say, hey, you should really mind this. And that has mostly stuck with me. Although, look, it's live radio, and sometimes you misspeak, and sometimes you misfire on the rules of grammar. It happens. I apologize to anyone I may have offended with my my grammatical lapse there. But I think about that a lot. I think about the time I got a letter from an English professor at DePauw University. Not a letter, an email, but I think about that a lot. So anytime I get something right, anytime I go, wow, that was grammatically, that was top notch. That was top flight from Dan. He handled that verb tense agreement really well. Yeah, that's because I pay attention to those things, or at least I was admonished to at one point in my career. Anyway, that's an old story. Long and the short of it, Brendan and I are going to arm wrestle when we get to 800 subscribers. So go subscribe to the YouTube channel. And when you watch on YouTube, this is the other thing that's cool about watching live on YouTube, is that there is a live chat, and we have listeners who hang out in the live chat throughout the show and interact with each other, interact with us. That's a lot of fun. You can ask questions. You can make comments. We'll put them on the screen. We'll react to those. And we appreciate those of you who interact in the YouTube comments. It is not a requirement that you say nice things about me to get your comment from the chat on the screen, like Mark when he says that I look sharp today, but it doesn't hurt. It never hurt. Flattery will get you everywhere. So thank you, Mark. That was very nice of you to say. Thank you. I did my best. And precious little sleep. Let's just say that's how things are going with my 14-month-old the last couple of nights. I look forward to my next full uninterrupted night of sleep in approximately 2029. Let's get to why I look sharp today. I dressed up because I was going to be seen in public, not just by you folks on the YouTube or on Facebook, WIBW News on Facebook. I was at Lawrence today. I was in Lawrence today for KU's football media day. We heard from Lance Leipold. We heard from the coordinators as well, Jim Zebrowski and DK McDonald. Players spoke as well, but that was going to be cutting it close for me. I didn't hang around to hear from any of the players. I'm sure there's content all over the internet from those guys, but did want to play you some of what Lance Leipold had to say. Lance Leipold spoke to the media for about half an hour, answered all kinds of questions from all across the spectrum. My favorite answer, which I did not include in this group of cuts, someone asked him, and it was a student journalist that asked him if he could have one KU alumni to put on his current team and bring into the new stadium, who would it be? And Leipold's first response was, if I say one, then I'm going to forget 100 guys, and I'm going to hear from like Kenny Logan's going to be mad that I didn't say him, which drew a laugh from the room. And then he also pointed out, then I say a player, then all the players on the current team at that position think I don't like them. So it was funny. There were some laughs in the media room. So for the record, Leipold played it safe with his answer and said Gale Sayers. That's a good answer. That's a really good answer from Lance Leipold. Personally, given the shortcomings in the defensive backfield, I'd probably say Keep Talib for this year's team in particular. But they didn't ask me. The student journalist did not turn around and say, oh, hey, and Dan, I want your opinion on this too. She didn't ask me. I gave it to you, but I wasn't asked on site. So that you will not hear. But you will hear some other stuff from Lance Leipold. He talks in here about the Big 12's new policy about injury reports, participation reports starting this season. He talks about the linebacking group. There's some stuff in there about Jalen Daniels. There's some injury notes that one in particular sounds like it might be a little bit concerning regarding one all-conference players' availability for week one, and it's not Bryce Foster. So lots of good stuff here from Lance Leipold. Without any further ado, here's the coach of the Kansas Jayhawks from earlier today.
Availability reports this season for conference games. Did you support that, or generally, what do you think about it?
Yeah, Jordan, I've been kind of on the fence. It was trending that direction. Kind of want to see how it plays out. We talked about it in our meetings in late May. We knew it was kind of going there. We talked about some different thoughts on when and what categories. I haven't seen the final one yet of how it's going to be labeled. we know why it's being done, for the other impact of things that happen in this country and worldwide. So, it's there as long as it's balanced for everyone and where it's at. I think it'll work out fine. I think for us, when you have that many players and building your template of to make sure that you're doing it accurately, as I've tried to use the consequence for not doing it correctly is, that's always going to be the thing and I
talked a lot about the new in-helmet communication devices going in with a new linebacker room, a new back end overall. Who are some of the guys you'll be relying on to set the defense?
Again, most of the time it'll be at the linebacker core. It makes the most sense to have the second level players there. Sometimes you may use a safety, but again, for communication and where it's at, from coach to player, it'll be in the linebacker room. One thing I think we've done a lot better job to this date is communication as a whole on defense. DK's been emphatic on it since day one about communicating better, and I think our guys have. So again, home or away, whatever's happening, communication, echoing calls, understanding calls, is also vital.
We've talked about the depth at linebacker and how it's been different than maybe having someone like Cornell or Tywin that's always in the game. How has that worked throughout camp of having different guys coming in and being the voices on certain situations?
I think it's good. Again, some of those guys are, whether it be the newcomers that have joined us, from Trey and Bengali and Joseph to a guy like Jason Gilliam, who's been in the program, and Ezra Vedrill's a guy who's had a really fine camp as a walk-on and has put himself in a position to see the field. All those guys have been, given the opportunity within their rotations to be vocal and be leaders, and I think they've done a fine job.
Talk about the continued benefits of Jalen getting the chance to kind of practice more with the wide receiver room that's pretty brand new. How's that connection looked between them, and how has that continued to grow?
I think it's been excellent. JD's had he's had a great camp. Playing really well, and to see his confidence and the timing and connections and some of those things, you kind of look back and, whether it be him being limited or players being limited, you kind of see the void that was there, and it kind of makes you kind of look back and appreciate what you have going on right now, and it'll be important to go. But I think he feels really good about his timing and understanding with this group.
Sorry, to circle back to the injury reports a little bit. Sorry. Was sports gambling something you were referencing is why this is coming about?
Is that what I was referencing? You said it, I didn't.
I just want to make sure.
Was that your question? Yeah, spot on.
Okay. Lance, over the years, has there been an indicator of one thing at this time of year that kind of tells you whether your team's ready or not? And has that been consistent? And if so, how does that one thing look with this group right now?
When they're sick of practicing against each other, usually. Yeah. I mean, there's part of that. I think our players have done a good job, and we've been very strong about it. Sometimes in camps, people think that fights and short tempers is a sign that it's ready to go play. I think it's a waste of time and a lack of discipline. So we don't really tolerate it, never have. And I think our guys have been really good about that. Things get separate. I think our practice model really helps us there. But I think you're at a point now with some of the things that you can tell they're getting anxious, and I don't want to say it's getting monotonous in this, but there's a routine, and you have to embrace some of the monotonous things in order to be great at something. You have to do those tasks that kind of require repetition, and to embrace that kind of grind to do that. But I think we're getting at that point. I think it showed itself a little bit to me today. I thought we were okay out there today. I thought we looked a little heavy-legged, and that happens at this time of camp. And as things start to taper here in the next couple of days, as we approach game week, I think we'll have them in a great spot and to be excited for kickoff.
What, if you could, just kind of a general overview of what it does look like between now and the start of a true game week?
Tomorrow, we got meetings and walkthrough here today. We'll go through our mock game scenario tomorrow with a lot of situations. But we'll go everything through our pregame routine. In fact, you kind of forget, we got coaches who have never coached a game here, and there's new rules. You can use monitors and video at halftime now, where you can set up a place to watch. So, from going out, with 50 new at least scholarship players, let alone others. We got a lot of players that are new in our program on how do we warm up on game day? How do we use half the field? Where do we go? What's the rotation of going out onto the field? So on and so forth. We'll go through all of that. We'll go through a mock game scenario, which isn't any different than probably 99% of the teams in the country will do something similar. We'll practice Saturday morning, and we'll give them Sunday off. And then we approach our game week routine on Monday. So our new student athletes on campus have other things now that the campus is starting to pick up that they're required to go to. So it does kind of cut into our day a little bit. Have to modify that, cut some things short. But the school year and the season's right around the corner for sure.
Over here, Lance.
Hey.
When it comes to a week 0 game, I know there's some advantages and disadvantages to it with all the new players like you're alluding to and new staff with the coordinators. How much has that changed things you guys have gone across with a week 0 game? And just, do you like the early start to the season?
I think that's to be determined based on, how the season plays out a little bit, Harold. I just think it's it's exciting to get out there and get going. I think what we're allowed to do now in college football in our summer and our time with the players that have been increased, you get a chance to teach and do things that allow you to hit the ground running. Where you get concerned from my chair is it's one less week really of summer conditioning and weight room time and things like that. So that's the thing. We have 3 open weeks this year, which would be, how does that work on the body, mentally, all those kind of things. But, all in all, you have a chance to be one of the first ones to kick off the season. I think a lot of people across the country are excited about college football, excited to watch college football, watching games in August that count and are not just practice games. I think for a football fan is something that is exciting, and for us to have a window on national television to expose our program, our stadium, and everything like that is something that we should be extremely excited about and embrace.
On the new stadium, you guys have shown recruits and the families kind of what it's going to be as it's going. What's the impact of now that them seeing the final product?
Yeah, John, that's really good. I've saw so many people. It's a credit to all the people behind the scenes in the design of the stadium, because I don't think I've read as much. And again, I don't probably read about every stadium project, though I try maybe. But is this one hit the renderings as good as any other stadium that people have seen about what it truly looks like. And for that, when we were able to show it to people, at least, I say the outer shell part of it has been really cool. But when they get in everything to see how it's been done, and it was done in a first-class way, and it's not going to be perfect. And of course, the people on a negative scope will find things that they'll pick apart. But it's been done really nice, and it's a huge upgrade. And as we continue to recruit to this facility, I know it'll continue to pay dividends for us.
Last question for me. What are your thoughts on the offensive line as training camp wraps up?
Again, I don't think we're quite ready to announce the starters. I think Enrique, Cruz, and Nolan will alternate at the right tackle spot as it continues to battle. Amir Herring and Tavaka are continually batting at the left guard. We're healthy at the other spots. I think Kelvin Clements is at an excellent camp. Bryce Foster's back and going full speed. Kobe Baines has had another solid camp as well. So feel good about where it's going that way. I like the depth that we'll have there as well at some other spots between Tyler Mercer, Jack Tanner, James Livingston. I think, for lack of a better way of saying it, 1 through 10, when you go into your two deep of offensive line, we'll be as close together as it's been as far as gaps at positions than ever before since we've been here.
Camp, what's the health of the roster like?
Okay, I guess. Trending towards a decent. And, Dean Miller's hasn't practiced much in the last couple of weeks. That'll be a big question mark going into it. I don't know. I haven't asked when I have to fill out my first official injury report. So, he'll be, Gage Keys hasn't practiced much. Bryson Canty hasn't practiced much. Other guys have been, Blake Harold hasn't practiced much. What else am I missing in there? To me, it's the list. The list gets really long in the middle of camp, and then like some days now it shortens up. I told Trent Carter he's kind of like the game week's kind of like Southwest Airlines, where everybody needs a wheelchair to get on, but when they get off the plane, they don't need them anymore. It's like Trent, like everybody can't practice at this time. Then we hit game week, and miraculously, guys, he must have some healing powers or something. But we get healthier as it gets closer to game week, but no, we are in all seriousness, our training staff and doctors do a great job. We do a great job here with the strength staff as well of monitoring guys and keeping them at a level that when they do return to play, that they're able to come in conditioning wise and slide back into a rotation.
So that was Lance Leipold earlier today at KU's Football Media Day. Lots of interesting stuff in there from Lance. Sounds like Dean Miller's availability for week 0 might be up in the air. Some guys that he mentioned there that hadn't practiced or hadn't done much practicing in the last couple of weeks. Dean Miller being the first name out of his mouth and saying there's a question there about his week 0 availability against Fresno State. That would certainly be a big loss if Dean Miller could not go, their best returning pass rusher off the edge from last season. So that will bear monitoring as it goes. Gage Key's been dinged up as well, defensive tackle. That's something that's been known. Bryce Foster coming off of the summer injury and the cleanup procedure he had. That sounds a little bit more optimistic. But as Lance talked about at the end of those remarks, sometimes guys, they get a little tweak and it keeps them from practicing. But when it's game week, they can smell the finish line, and all of a sudden they feel well enough to get out and practice because everybody knows, practice you don't play, right? That's fairly hard and fast rule for all but like the elite of the elite in the pros, right? So guys know you don't practice, you don't play. So game week comes, maybe some of those nagging injuries aren't nagging as persistently anymore. So it's a pretty funny moment. Lance Leipold's in good spirits. He seemed like a coach that was happy to also be able to smell game week from here and get ready to prepare for Fresno State coming to town for week 0 next Saturday night. We'll hear from Jim Zebrowski and DK McDonald later on in the program. They also spoke at KU's Football Media Day today. Thought had some interesting stuff to say. I'm a big Jim Zebrowski fan, just listening to him talk. He goes fast. He's a fast talker because he's just excited. He's excited. You can tell he's got a lot of enthusiasm about his work, a lot of enthusiasm about his players, a lot of enthusiasm about the season to come. DK McDonald also spoke today. So we'll hear from both of the coordinators a little bit later on as I was at Big 12, or rather KU Football Media Day earlier today. But we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll have a round of What Is Wrong With You next on 580 Sports Talk. It is What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. 2 new stories competing today, and joining me for What Is Wrong With You today is Spencer Dupuis. Hi, Spencer.
Hello.
We've got 2 stories today competing to try and take down our current weekly champion, not really a nurse. The Florida woman arrested for posing as a nurse, using some fake credentials and treating over 4,000 patients without a license. And she would have gotten away with it, too, if she hadn't been good enough at her job to warrant consideration for a promotion. And that's when they started doing a little digging into her background and found out, oh, wait, this person is not licensed. No matter how good she was at her job, that's not legal. So Not Really a Nurse is our current weekly champion. We've got the 2 stories today. Spencer, I'll let you go first.
All right, we're going to go to Palm Coast, Florida. A man was arrested early Sunday morning after crashing his car off Interstate 95 and admitting to deputies that he had been drinking heavily. Deputies responded to a single vehicle crash near Palm Coast, where a caller reported that a gray Toyota crossed all 3 lanes of traffic before spinning out and crashing into the woods. When deputies arrived, they found the driver, 30-year-old Michael Gonzalez, outside the vehicle. He declined medical attention, but told deputies he had, quote, drank too much, end quote, and couldn't remember the crash. Deputies noted that he smelled strongly of alcohol, had vomited on himself, and was unsteady on his feet. After failing a series of field sobriety tests, he was arrested for DUI and taken to Flagler County Jail. Breath tests later showed his blood content at 0.168 and 0.173, more than twice the legal limit. He is facing a DUI charge. Luckily, there were no injuries reported.
Yes, very lucky.
He hit himself.
Awareness 99, like 99 rating on his awareness on Madden, right?
Yeah.
I think I drank too much. Yeah, I'd say so. You can't stand up and you reek of vomit and booze. I would say you probably had one too many, if not several too many.
Maybe that means you shouldn't get in the car and turn on the vehicle and drive away.
Right. Awareness level 99, except for that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go figure. Man contains multitudes. For my story today, we're going to Redmond, Washington. You ever forget your phone?
Yeah, quite often.
Like leave the house, you don't have it.
Yeah.
Like leave work.
My thing is I'll leave it in the car when I get to work. And then I'll come do what I need to do. And a few minutes later, I'll be like, it's in the car.
Well, here's a guy who left his phone in his car while it was being serviced at an automotive shop and couldn't abide that. So he tried to break in to retrieve his phone and was arrested. The break-in happened around 1:30 p.m. Friday when a business employee in a neighboring business to Luke's Automotive in Redmond, Washington, reported seeing a person throw a rock through a front door of the closed and unoccupied shop located on Northeast 90th Street. My question is, what are they doing closed and unoccupied at 1:30 on a Friday? Like, did they all just decide to cut out for the day? And
that is an odd time to close.
Did they have Mariners tickets? Like, what was going on that they had to not be in the shop? That's a weird time to close, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know some businesses are small, it's just a couple people. Maybe they did. Maybe they took a late lunch. Maybe they were having a birthday or retirement party for somebody. I don't know. But it's a strange time not to be open.
Exactly.
Anyway, our guy's solution, having left his phone in his vehicle in the garage, was to throw a rock through the door and break in so that he could get his phone. Listen, I am probably a little too addicted to my phone. Like, that's not a word I use lightly. Like, it is very compulsive. It is a compulsive habit for me, as I'm sure it is for so many of you, to reach in to your pocket if your phone happens to be there and just grab it and look and scroll and see if you've got any notifications or whatever it is, especially if you really like to use a social media app. Like, it's so tempting to pick up your phone, and it does. When you're away from it for a while, you feel like, okay, this is really difficult. And yes, the phone is a lifeline now. It's very important to have your phone on you. It's very important not to forget your phone. And I'm sure there was desperation on this person's account when he realized he didn't have his phone, that his phone was behind the locked door. They didn't know when anybody was going to be coming to that locked door to let him in so he could retrieve his phone. But brother, you've got to take that L, because it's better than getting arrested.
Yeah.
Whatever's on Facebook can wait. Your game of doodle jump can wait. I never wanted my phone that bad that I would commit a crime to go retrieve it. There was never a time I was waiting on a text that was so important or a call that was so important that I would resort to crime. The crimes in question, for the record, malicious mischief in the 3rd degree and criminal trespass in the 1st degree. Those are the charges that the suspect is facing.
Yeah.
Broke in broad daylight because he forgot his phone in his car.
I think that wins today.
I think that wins today as well. Paul K says, I just want my phone call. Yeah, what they do? Can I call my lawyer? Wait, no, I can't. Got to wait till I get to the. Wait till I get to the station because I don't have my freaking phone. Just remember your phones, guys. That's a real easy one. I'm going to argue that beats not really a nurse.
I think so too.
Just the idea that you would. Like, you screwed up, obviously, and we do. Like, we need our phones. We don't need them as much as sometimes we act like we do, but we do need our phones. That is how we stay connected to our families, our coworkers, the important people in our lives, the rest of the world. Like, yeah, we need our phones. Not that bad.
Nope.
Not that bad, man. Just hang out. Just like, I don't know, go to the neighboring business and say, hey, do you know when they'll be back? Do you know anybody who works over there? Do you know anybody who might have a key? I really need my phone. And if the answer keeps being no, brother, you got to take the L. You have to take the L. You got no choice. Because the L of not having your phone is not near as bad as the L of facing felony charges.
Yep.
So that's going to move on. Leave the phone alone. That is going to move on as our weekly winner on What Is Wrong With You. Spencer, thanks for dropping by.
Yep. I'll talk to you guys next week.
Okay.
I'll be back Monday.
Yes, you will be off tomorrow. You are off tomorrow. But we'll talk to you next week. We will talk to all of you. I will talk to all of you, the listeners, after we take this quick time out here on 580 Sports Talk. .443 on 580 Sports Talk. More than halfway home on this Thursday with you until 6 o'clock. No Royals baseball tonight. They are off. Back in action this weekend at the K against the Chicago White Sox. When the Royals return to action, they hold a record of 60-61 on the season. They entered today 4 games out of a wild card berth in the American League. That is exactly where they've been for the last week. That's where they were to start the Minnesota series. That's where they were to start the Washington series. They went 3-3 in that stretch and did not gain or lose any ground, which is good or bad news. However, you choose to look at it. They're half a game behind Texas, 3 behind Cleveland, 4 behind New York, who currently holds the 3rd wild card in the American League. Seattle was losing. They got the number 1 wild card right now. They're a game back of Houston in the West. And last I saw, they were losing to Baltimore this afternoon. I think it was 5-2. Last I saw a score, still 5-2 in the 8th inning. Right now, Seattle, the standard bearer at 67-54 among the wild card teams. And you have Boston at 66-56, the Yankees at 64-57. So it's an even 4 games behind for the Royals from the Yankees, who are off tonight. Baseball Reference says the odds of the Royals making the playoffs stand at 7.6% entering today. Fangraphs also has playoff odds. Theirs tend to be a bit more generous, but not this time. The Royals have a 7% chance to make the playoffs, according to Fangraphs. And look, let's be real honest about what this Royals season has been. They're 1 game below 500, have been over 500 since June 10th. And when they have gotten back to 500, which they have done on a couple of separate occasions here in the month of August, they have immediately lost and fallen back below the 500 mark. It has been, there's proven to be over the last couple of months, a glass ceiling that the Royals cannot shatter. But let's be real honest about this. Let's time travel back with me to March on opening day at Kauffman Stadium. And if you told me on opening day, Kansas City's best starting pitcher will make 10 starts in the first 4.5 months of the season with an ERA over 5. Kansas City's second best starting pitcher will also miss time on the IL and have an ERA close to 4. And have a 10.66 ERA in 3 starts since just before the trade deadline. And the third best starter for the Royals, a breakthrough all-star, would be lost for the season in late July. If you told me that about the 2025 Kansas City Royals and that would be where we stood on August 14th of 2025, you know what I would tell you? Boy, good thing football's right around the corner. That's what I would have told you. I would have not believed the record could even have been this good. If you told me that Cole Reagans was going to miss 3.5 months, maybe more. If you told me that Chris Bubich, the breakout standout of the pitching staff this year, would miss 2 months, and that Seth Lugo would regress from his outstanding 2024 season. If all of those things I knew were going to happen, I would have hammered the under on Royals wins this season. And I would not have believed that their playoff odds even stood as high as 7.6% from Baseball Reference, which is, again, where they are going into today's action. It's just really hard to overcome your star players, the guys you're leaning on, to not give you anything. Last year, Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo were 4-5 win pitchers according to wins above replacement. This year, they've combined for 1.8 wins above replacement. And 2 of those 1.8 are Seth Lugo, because Reagans was actually below replacement level according to Baseball Reference WAR. Fangraphs WAR differs, but that's a much longer conversation than we have the time to have here. Suffice it to say, those 2 guys who you were leaning on to be your 1-2 punch at the top of the rotation have not delivered. And where you have had a pleasant surprise in Chris Bubich, you lose him in late June. Just as you're trying to decide, are we all in or are we all out on making this playoff push, you lose Chris Bubich. And you can look at that and you can point to that. That is the reason. There's some intangible stuff. We've talked at length. I have wailed and flailed my arms and gnashed my teeth about Royals base running this season. We have pointed over and over to failings with runners in scoring position. It has been the reason they have lost their two most recent games. The Royals were 1 for 15 with runners in scoring position Sunday in Minnesota. They were 4 for 17 yesterday in that loss to Washington. If they'd gone 5 for 17, they win the game. They went 4 for 17. It's not good enough. It's below 250, the batting average there. I can do math. 235, I think. So there's all of that, and it plays a role. And, of course, there's the failings of the bottom half of the batting order. The fact that guys you were leaning on to take some steps forward this year, like MJ Melendez and Michael Massey, did not take steps forward. The fact that the back of the bullpen has been taxed because Hunter Harvey can't stay healthy, and Lucas Erceg hasn't been quite as good, and Carlos Estevez had taken a bit of a step back here in the second half. There's all kinds of reasons. You're good for a lot of reasons. You're not good for a lot of reasons. And you're a 500-ish team for a lot of reasons. That's what happens. You play 162 games. There's a lot of stuff that kind of sorts itself out. But to me, there is no bigger reason why the Royals haven't hit their marks this year, are not in the position that they would have expected to be in this year, than the fact that they just didn't get what they thought they were going to get from their best starting pitchers. And they deserve a lot of credit, the Royals, for making it work to the extent that they have made it work, to where, okay, Lugo's disappointed and Reagans has been hurt, but look what Bubic gave you for 20 starts. Look what Noah Cameron has given you. Michael Wacha has been steady and as durable as he has been throughout his career. And the Royals have made the bullpen shake in the middle innings with Schreiber and Zerpa and Steven Cruz and Taylor Clark having been acceptable middle relief options for this year's team when guys like Harvey got hurt or when guys like Sam Long underperformed. And on offense, when the production of guys like Hunter Renfroe and MJ Melendez and Michael Massey just never materialized, the Royals have done their best to spackle over those holes. They got a breakout all-star campaign from Maikel Garcia out of pretty much nowhere. They added Mike Yastrzemski, who's helped the offense. They've added Randall Grichuk, who's given them a presence against lefties that they didn't really have. The Royals front office, the Royals coaching staff, I think we have seen in the last 2 years has this franchise in pretty good hands. I think they've made good decisions by and large this season. I think they've done good work, and we're going to continue to see the work that they do with guys like Ryan Bergert, who's had a really intriguing Royals debut his first 2 starts. That's a credit to Brian Sweeney and that Royals pitching lab. But if 500 feels like this team's ceiling right now, and it does. It feels like they keep bumping their head on that 500 mark for a reason. If that feels like the ceiling, the biggest reason is it is hard for any team to be able to survive not getting what was expected from star-level players. And star-level contributions were expected of Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo, and that has not been the case. Now, Seth Lugo has been recent stretch accepted, fine. And there's a lot to be said for fine as a starting pitcher. Fine will make you $20 million a year. Takes the ball every 5 days, mostly throws strikes, although, again, previous couple of starts accepted. Don't want to let 3 bad starts entirely taint a 23-start body of work that has been still above average. But the hopes for this team were pinned on those guys who received Cy Young votes last year being good enough to do that again. And that hasn't materialized. So you can take the base running, you can take the runners in scoring position, you can take the failings of the offense for the first 2 months of the season, and all of those things matter, yes. But to me, nothing has mattered more than the pitching step back and the injury to Reagans. I had a bad feeling the day that was announced he was going on the IL, that could be a season alterer, and I believe it has been, because Cameron's been good, and Bubic was really good, And Waka's been solid, and certainly Lugo's had his moments, but the ceiling, the ace level production that Reagan's offered you at the top of the rotation, that's why you believe you could win the Central. And there just isn't any replacing that. You don't just replace those kinds of guys. We'll take a time out here at 580 Sports Talk. Come back, wrap up the 4 o'clock hour next. Wrapping up this 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. We've got one more hour together. 5:25, Mitch Holthus will join us for a training camp report presented by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. And that's not quite accurate to say. Mitch won't be joining us because he'll be 30,000 feet above us, above somewhere. He'll be on his way to Seattle. Maybe they're already landed. I honestly don't know. But Mitch is in transit today, so not able to join us live, but does have a pre-recorded edition of his training camp reports. Another member of the Chiefs featured on what we're calling Nitty Gritty Week on the training camp reports. So we'll hear from Mitch. We'll also hear some more audio from KU Football Media Day earlier today. Jim Zebrowski, the offensive coordinator, DK McDonald, the defensive coordinator, both spoke with the media earlier today. Thought there were some interesting tidbits from both, so we'll play a little bit of both coaches. We've also got our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up in the next hour as well, including the big news of the day as far as the Chiefs are concerned. Rashee Rice's disciplinary hearing is set for the end of September. What that means for Rice and the Chiefs. Plus, I am going to get incandescently upset about the Associated Press's all-time AP first team college football team, All-America team. The all-time All-America team from the AP, celebrating 100 years of putting out an All-America team. They put out their all-time team today, and I'm going to get so mad about it I could spit. But anyway, I digress. So that's all coming up. We'll have some fun in the final hour of 580 Sports Talk here on 580 WIBW. Let's get it. Third and final hour of this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our streaming video channels, our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, our Facebook page, WIBW News. My name's Dan Lucero. It's a solo mission the rest of the way. Thanks for being here, hanging out with me on this Thursday, this Royals off day, this Chiefs off day, travel day, if you will. Both the Royals and the Chiefs are in action tomorrow night. The Royals open a 3-game series at the K against the Chicago White Sox, while preseason game number 2 kicks off at Lumen Field in Seattle as the Chiefs take on the Seahawks. Royals baseball tomorrow night will be right here on 580 WIBW FM 104.9. You're accustomed to that. If you want to hear the Chiefs and the Chiefs Radio Network broadcast, Mitch Holthus, Dayton Hughes, Josh Klingler, and the gang, that will be on our sister station, the Big 94.5 Country. So if you want to hear that, you'll have to flip the dial from the AM to the FM or leave it on the FM. Some of you may be listening on FM 104.9, our FM translator, which sounds beautiful in the city of Topeka and the immediate surrounding area. I think, I don't know, I couldn't give you like an exact mileage, how far out of town I can get 104.9. But when I listen, if I'm driving around and I'm listening to the Royals or I'm listening to the Chiefs or I'm listening to any of the other programming we got on 580, I will usually be listening on the FM translator. So, you know, that's how I get down. So maybe you listen on the FM translator and you don't have to flip the dial from AM to FM. You just scroll on the dial and find 94.5. The Big 94.5 Country. That is where the Chiefs game will be tomorrow night. Speaking of Mitch Holthus, you'll hear from him in a little while. We have our training camp reports presented by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union, but Mitch is en route to Seattle as we speak. Kind enough to submit a pre-recorded training camp report, so we'll get to that at 5:25 here this afternoon. Also to come this hour, more audio from KU Football Media Day. They got to have a traditional media day today because their first game is in the United States of America, where K-State kind of had to move some plans around a little bit this year because their first game is in Ireland next Saturday. So we'll play you some Chris Kleiman audio when we get it. When next time he talks to the media, we'll play that. But we've done a lot of KU audio today. We heard from Lance Leipold in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll hear from Jim Zebrowski, DK McDonald, little bits and pieces from what the 2 coordinators for the Jayhawks had to say in Lawrence earlier today. And if you missed any of what Lance Leipold had to say or anything we've done in the last 2 hours or anything we've done recently, you can catch it on our podcast page on our website, 580WIBW.com. You can also find us on Spotify. Go search for 580 Sports Talk on Spotify. We're there. We're there with all your other favorite podcasts in your music. 580 Sports Talk, the name of our Spotify page. You can find us there. You can listen to the show, hour-by-hour breakdowns on Spotify. And if you do find us over there, by the way, like us, follow us, whatever the terminology over there is, rate us and review us. Give us a nice little 5-star review. We appreciate that. You can also watch the archival videos on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. We added a subscriber today. We're up to 783, which means we are 17 subscribers away from the arm wrestling match between myself and Brendan Dworzinski that will be broadcast live on the YouTube channel and on an episode of 580 Sports Talk. So if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, today's a great day to do it and get us closer to that subscriber mark of 800. We've been promising an arm wrestling match, and we will deliver. We got to get to 800 subscribers first. Get us closer. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. We'll begin this final hour with our 580 Sports Talk headlines, as we always do. And we're going to begin with what was the big Chiefs news of the day. Adam Schefter reporting. Chiefs receiver Rashee Rice is expected to have his disciplinary hearing with the NFL on Tuesday, September 30th in New York. This means that Rice now is likely to be able to play the first 4 weeks of the season before any potential discipline is imposed for his role in a multi-car crash in Dallas during the 2024 offseason. This would make him eligible to play the first 4 games against the Chargers in Brazil, the Eagles, at the Giants, and at home against the Ravens. Obviously, pretty big deal. The more you've got your best wide receiver, your WR1 available, the better off you're going to be. Chiefs have been girding their loins for a Rice suspension really now for the entirety of last year, or at least first 4 weeks of last year. They're like, oh, what's going to happen if Rice gets suspended at some point this season? And then Rice got hurt and mooted the whole thing. You do wonder if there might have been more urgency on all sides to resolve the matter, both criminally and in the NFL's disciplinary process, if Rice hadn't torn up his knee last year, but I guess we'll never know. Once the legal portion of the process was decided, the NFL able to move forward. But why September 30th? It is this simple. That's when Sue Robinson can make it. Like, it's just that simple. I think that's her name. Sue Robinson with the NFL. She is the judge who is the NFL's disciplinary officer, jointly appointed by the NFL and the NFLPA. This will be her second hearing under the NFL's personal conduct policy. And essentially, this is when she's available. So this is when the meeting will happen. And what will happen on September 30th is that the judge will hear the evidence. And there's not much dispute at this point. Like, Rashee Rice pled guilty and went through that whole process. So, like, the facts are what they are at this point, the facts of the case. She will make her own findings. She will hand down a punishment, and the NFL or Rice can appeal the decision. Like, if Robinson doesn't suspend Rice at all, the NFL could theoretically appeal that and say, no, we think there should be some kind of punishment here. And if Robinson says, yeah, I'm going to give Rashee Rice an 8-game suspension, well, then Rice and his side can appeal that ruling as well. But that is the next step in the process. And we've been wondering when that process would start forward. Obviously, last week there was the suspension to Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison, who had some not similar, but not related. What is the word I'm looking for here? They were also road driving related offenses. His were of the under the influence variety, and Addison got his suspension, and you wondered, okay, well, does that make Rashee Rice next? And looks like the answer is yes, but his process will not begin until September 30th. So Rashee Rice and the Chiefs know full steam ahead for the first 4 weeks. And it's funny that when we talked about a suspension for Rice happening in 2025, which once the legal system was done and had sentenced Rashee Rice, and he had been punished via the legal system and had resolved any of the civil cases against him, we knew that the next step was going to be the NFL handing out discipline. So it was never in question at that point that Rashee Rice was going to serve a suspension in 2025. And when we knew that, we discussed on this show, and I think many of you were in agreement with us when we discussed it on this show, that there could be a benefit to Rashee Rice having been suspended early and missing games early in the season. It would have been perhaps it would have discouraged him from rushing back from his knee injury. It would have discouraged the Chiefs from rushing him back before he was all the way ready. If there were any lingering concerns or any lingering doubts that he was 100% physically, the Chiefs could have used the first however many weeks of the season, if Rice had been suspended to start the year, to make sure that he was up to speed and ready to play. And then there would be no interruption, no disruption to the flow of the Chiefs offense over the course of the season. Once he was back, he would be back. So now that we know that won't be the case. That when Rashee Rice serves a suspension, it will be in the middle of the 2025 season, some point in the middle of the campaign. And now we look at it and say, you know what? It might have been a little more convenient for the Chiefs if Sue Robinson could have heard this case like today or tomorrow. And I understand. Like I think it was Andrew in the YouTube comments earlier who mentioned that would have been beneficial potentially for Rice's health. I think you could certainly have argued that. It's a bit weird to argue that. Like, yes, I hope this player who did something really dumb and suspension worthy, at least if they get suspended early, then it helps the team or helps the player. It's a weird way to think about it, but it's also like a realistic way to evaluate what's happening here. But flip side, 2 of the 3 biggest regular season games for the Chiefs, and I think you could argue 3 of the 5 or 6 biggest games are in the first 4 weeks of the season. You have the Chargers on neutral ground. You have the Super Bowl rematch in week 2, and you have the Ravens coming to town. And the Eagles and Ravens, you don't need me to tell you, pretty nasty secondaries. You're going to want all the weapons on hand you can muster. And now the Chiefs know one of them will be their best pass-catching weapon, their best active pass-catching weapon, Rashee Rice. So that's undeniably a positive. And Mark B points out in the YouTube comments that the appeals process, there's a chance that could drag on if indeed Robinson were to hand down a suspension that either the NFL or Rice and the Chiefs did not feel was fair. They could appeal, get an injunction. Rice would be eligible to play during the appeal process. And Mark says if that got Rice through the first 8-9 weeks of the season, that'd be great. Because, who's week 9? The Bills? Yeah, that's another big one. Be nice if Rashee Rice could play against the Bills. So there's pros and cons, ultimately. But we are clearer or closer to having a clearer picture on what the 2025 season for Rashee Rice is going to look like. It also is now a potentially complicating factor as to the 53-man roster, because there's a chance that the Chiefs are going to have an extra roster spot to start the season. Might have been able to keep an extra wide receiver instead of having to make a difficult cut because Rashee Rice would have been on the suspended list. Won't be the case, at least not at the start of the season. September 30th, that'll be the day that Rashee Rice is hauled in front of the NFL tribunal to answer for his misdeeds. That's the big news today. Texter asked in the 785, what's the likelihood that they would lower the game suspended if he agrees not to appeal? Now, that is a process that does happen, that there's a little bit of give and take possible, and that the league can say, all right, if you don't appeal and you agree to serve your suspension right away, we will go a little lighter than we might like to if you agree not to appeal. That does happen. And I think that's probably the most likely outcome, more so than a process where the NFL and Judge Robinson decide we're going to throw the hammer down on Rashee Rice, who's a player that, again, should be noted, has now taken accountability through the legal system, has not been in any other off-the-field trouble. And unlike Jordan Addison, at the very least, there's no evidence that he was under the influence when he was doing his very stupid drag racing through the heart of Dallas. If Judge Robinson were to look at that evidence, that body of work, and say, oh, this is an 8-game suspension, this is a 6-game suspension, I would think there would be an appeal there. But it would be more likely for the NFL, for Judge Robinson, for the Chiefs, for Rice's representation to say, hey, you know what? Why don't we bargain this? What if we'd like to do, let's say they want to do 6. Let's say that's the NFL standard for this. And they really want to make an example of Rashee Rice. And they say, yeah, we want this to be a 6-game suspension. Well, if Rice were to appeal, he'd have a pretty solid leg to stand on. Jordan Addison only got 3 games, and he was drunk, and it was a second offense. Why am I getting 6 for a first offense? So he'd have a leg to stand on, I think, in the appeal process. So maybe the league then says, all right, well, what if we do 4? Or what if we do 3? Can you live with that and then start serving at week 5, and then we can just be done here? That is probably a more likely outcome than either a too stiff or too lenient suspension that gets appealed one way or another. That's a good question from the 785. Appreciate that. You can text program 785-272-9429. And again, like, this could go a lot of different ways. And our YouTube commenters point that out. That Mark says it feels like 4 feels like the maximum. And Ryan says, I figured it would be 6 to 8. I thought initially that 6 to 8 would be the expectation, but the Chiefs have never felt that way, for whatever it's worth. The Chiefs have never felt like it was going to be that severe suspension. So we'll see, but we won't know for another month and a half. And in the meantime, Rashee Rice is going to be on the field for some pretty important early season Chiefs games. Next headline. I promised I was going to get really mad about this, and I am. I'm very upset about this. The Associated Press has been putting out All-America teams in college football every year since 1925. You can do a little math and realize that this means that this year is 100 years, the 100th anniversary of the AP All-America team. And to mark the anniversary, AP college football beat writers picked an all-time All-America first team. Comprised of the top players from the past century, these players all had to be or have been first-team All-Americans when they played. So it rules out some guys who are like all-time great players. Like, did you realize Anthony Munoz, who might be the best left tackle who ever lived, and was a star at USC, star for the Bengals, Pro Football Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Famer, he was never an AP first-team All-American. He wasn't. That's crazy, right? So he's not eligible for this team, but everybody else who's a first-team All-American is eligible. I'm going to go through the list until I get mad. Wide receivers, Randy Moss, Larry Fitzgerald. Works for me. These two guys were uncovered. Randy Moss at Marshall was a cheat code. Obviously, he ended up there because he made some bad decisions off the field. But imagine him and Peter Warrick having been teammates at Florida State. That would have broken college football. That would have been so cool. Instead, we got him at Marshall. Just, if you've seen the clips of him running through, like, I think it's Army or Navy that they played that year, it's just not fair. It's just some of the funniest college football footage you'll ever see. Randy Moss just as a mutant among children at Marshall. Randy Moss and Larry Fitzgerald, the wide receivers. Tackles, Orlando Pace, Bill Fralick, who was a 3-time first-team All-American at Pitt. Guards, John Hanna, Jim Parker. Okay, before my time, but take your word for it. Center, Chuck Bednarik. Way before my time. But again, I will take your word. I will believe any story you tell me about Chuck Bednarik. Tight end, Brock Bowers. Interesting. He was awesome at Georgia. Okay, sure. Running backs, Barry Sanders, Herschel Walker. Yeah, absolutely. Those are the two names I most readily identify with college football excellence at running back. Be those guys and Reggie Bush. And again, I got to see Reggie Bush in college. I didn't get to see those two guys. So for my generation, the best college football running back I ever saw was Reggie Bush. But those two guys are instantly identifiable with greatness in college. I mean, you could argue for a couple others. I know Archie Griffin won 2 Heismans. OJ, you can put OJ on this team? No. But you could argue for it. Anyway, those are the running backs. Your kicker, Florida State, Sebastian Janikowski. All-purpose offensive player, Johnny Rodgers at Nebraska. Okay, fine. You notice I skipped quarterback. The quarterback on the first team, all-time All-America team. So by proxy, what these voters believe to have been the greatest college football quarterback of the past 100 years, Tim Tebow. Come on, man. Come on. Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow wasn't the greatest college football quarterback of the 2000s. Let's be real honest about this. Like, this is not me diminishing that Tim Tebow was not a great college football player. He has the Heisman Trophy, the national championship to prove that he was a great college football player. And you are not supposed to, in the process of this voting, consider a player's professional career. Again, fine. I understand that those are the rules. Watch Tim Tebow in college, and then watch Vince Young at Texas and watch Cam Newton at Auburn. I mean, come on. The greatest single season a college football player has ever had is Cam Newton at Auburn. I believe that with all my heart. It should have been Cam Newton or it should have been Vince Young. Vince Young, to be fair, was the second team all-time All-American quarterback. But Tim Tebow, really? Really? We're still doing Tim Tebow discourse in 2025, trying to tell me he's the greatest college football quarterback of the past 100 years. That's what you're telling me. That's what the Associated Press is telling me, that Tim Tebow was the greatest. And he was greater than Vince Young, who I saw touch the face of God at the Rose Bowl, not once, but twice in 2 years, against Michigan in the Rose Bowl in 2004, and then, of course, the 2005 National Championship game. The greatest single individual performance in the greatest college football game I've ever seen. That was better than Tim Tebow. There's never been a better individual college football season than what Cam Newton did. Cam Newton won the national title at Auburn. Do you remember who he was playing with on that team? Right. You don't. It was the Cam Newton show. I have to look it up before I get even madder and make sure that he was eligible or not. I need to find out if he was, in fact, eligible. How about that? You know who else was the first team All-American in 1999? Michael Vick. I was around for that. He got Virginia Tech to the national championship game. You remember who Michael Vick was playing with on that Virginia Tech team? Right. You don't. Outrageous to tell me that Tim Tebow's the greatest college football quarterback of the past 100 years. Cannot do it. The whole entire rest of the list loses credibility when you tell me that Tim Tebow's the greatest college football quarterback of the past 100 years. Get out of my face. It should have been Vince Young. If it wasn't him, it should have been Cam Newton. If it wasn't him, it should have been Michael Vick. I saw them all. This is not me trying to sell you on, like, I'm sure Roger Staubach was sick. I bet that Steve Spurrier Heisman season was unbelievable. I wasn't around for that. I'm not going to argue with a straight face, but I know what I saw. And I saw Tim Tebow, and he was great. He wasn't Vince Young. He wasn't Cam Newton, and he wasn't Michael Vick. Let's be really, really real about what we're talking about here. Absolutely outrageous to me. Texter for the 913 says, I just about swerved off the highway. That's how I felt. I almost spit soda on my computer screen. I was so mad. The rest of the team, for what it's worth, on defense, I think they got the defense pretty good. Defensive ends, Hugh Green and Randy White. I wasn't around for Hugh Green, but I've heard the stories that was the greatest defensive football player maybe in the history of college football. I believe it. 3-time first-team All-American. Defensive tackles, Ndamukong Suh. That's the best defensive player in college football I've ever seen. And very funny, Bronco Nagurski is also at defensive tackle. That's very funny. Linebackers, Dick Butkus, Derek Thomas, Chris Spielman. I'm all right with that. Cornerbacks, Charles Woodson. Yes. Deion Sanders. Yes. Safeties, Ed Reed. Yes. Ronnie Lott. Sure. And just for funsies, the punter, Iowa's Torrey Taylor. Sure. Had to be an Iowa punter from the Kirk Ferentz era, right? Couldn't be anybody else. But no, it's a fun list. It's fun to reminisce. It's fun to think back on all these great college football players. And then you try to tell me Tim Tebow is a better college football player than Vince Young or Cam Newton or Michael Vick. Man, get out of my face. Get out of my face. I don't even think Tim Tebow believes that. We'll take a timeout. That'll wrap up 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll come back. We'll hear from Mitch Holthus. His training camp report presented by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union is next here on 580 WIBW. I do have to shout out the Associated Press, though, for managing to still get me riled up about Tim Tebow in 2025. I didn't think that was possible. You know, he blocked me on Twitter, Tim Tebow. That's the story longtime listeners know. But he did. He blocked me on Twitter. I never said a word to him on the social media website formerly known as Twitter. He blocked me anyway, preemptively. He was probably right to do it. But I never said a word to the man. Tim Tebow better than Vince Young. Oh my God. Anyway, let's shift gears. A welcome shifting of the gears and talk some Chiefs. Mitch Holthus is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs and joins us throughout training camp and the preseason, since training camp is over, with our training camp reports brought to us by Hy-Vee, your official tailgate headquarters for Kansas City Chiefs football, and by Azure Credit Union, where you can contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Naseem Khan about the credit union advantage for your next home loan. Mitch, unable to join us live today, but he's got a report for us anyway. Take it away.
All right, fellas, I'm on a plane. I'm headed to Seattle for preseason game number 2 against the Seahawks tomorrow night. But I wanted to stay on this nitty-gritty theme this week. Who are the players who will do the dirty work to help the Chiefs be successful in 2025? Now, Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce may be having record-breaking podcasts with his girlfriend Taylor Swift, but his running mate at tight end, Noah Gray, continues to move forward quietly, doing his nitty-gritty dirty work. Gray had career highs in catches, yards, and touchdowns last year. And remember that 2-week spurt where he had 4 total touchdowns at Buffalo and at Carolina. But now it's time to help Travis Kelce even more. And Noah Gray needs to do that. And for Noah Gray to take the next step forward.
Listening to the coaches and just executing the game plan that is set forth before us every single day. And it's made me a better football player every year. You know, I thank God every year that I'm a part of this organization that really values the work of practice. And it's just really inspiring to see all these guys come out here and really push me to make me a better football player.
How much did you notice that even this spring and summer with OTAs and the mandatory minicamp, because almost everybody was here?
Yeah, I mean, guys are just – they just know, the importance of practice. They know the importance of being together and building that camaraderie. And you saw it from day one since we got here in the spring, like you were saying. You know, guys were showing up, guys were coming to work, and it's not mandatory. You know, that was all voluntary stuff. And it just kind of shows the spirit of the team, kind of where their head's at and what their goals are to win every single game that we can this year.
The rest of the tight end room is up for grabs, and tomorrow night's game against Seattle is another chance to evaluate second-year tight end Jared Wiley, as well as former Packers star Robert Tonyan, who has been great in training camp, and he led the Chiefs in receiving last week at Arizona. So I'm in the air. I'm headed for Seattle, ready for preseason game number 2. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs.
Thank you very much, Mitch, for that report from 30,000 feet up. Again, training camp reports brought to us by Hy-Vee, your official tailgate headquarters for Kansas City Chiefs football, and by Azure Credit Union, where you can contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Naseem Khan about the credit union advantage for your next home loan. Noah Gray's numbers have gotten progressively better as he has aged over his first 4 seasons as a pro. Last year, career highs, as Mitch mentioned, with 40 receptions, 437 yards, and 5 touchdowns on 49 targets. He had the same yards per catch, 10.9, as he did the year before. There are a lot of players you look at for the Chiefs and think, well, they need more from this guy in 2025. Like, they need more explosiveness from the running game. They need Isaiah Pacheco back to form. They need more from Xavier Worthy. Rashee Rice, bigger numbers, obviously, coming off the injury. You look at a lot of guys and say, you need more. I think you look at Noah Gray and say, I'll take that again. I'll take another 40 catches for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's just fine as the number 2 tight end in this Chiefs offense. If he gets up to 50 and 500 and half a dozen touchdowns, that would be a neat little line going up moment for Noah Gray, continuing to tick up in his 5th season. I think he's capable. I think he has shown that he is more than just the backup tight end. He's a guy that is capable of helping move the ball down the field on a consistent basis, and he's somebody that Patrick Mahomes trusts. So we'll be fascinated to see how he progresses and if he progresses, and even if he doesn't, even if the targets and receptions and yards look real similar to 2025, that's pretty darn good for your number 2 tight end. We'll take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we've got more audio from KU Football Media Day. Jim Zebrowski, DK McDonald spoke to the media, and we'll hear from them next here on 580 WIBW. 5:39 here on 580 Sports Talk. Some more comments about that AP all-time All-America team. Liam agrees with me, Vince Young over Tim Tebow for quarterback, or even Case Keenum. I don't know if he was a first-team All-American, though. He had to have been a first-team All-American to be eligible. But, yeah, Case put up some huge numbers at Houston, no doubt. Mark B., I was talking about Ndamukong Suh. I said Ndamukong Suh, to me, is the best defensive football player I've ever seen play college football. Only been alive since 1986. So I didn't see Hugh Green. I hear he's the best ever, and I believe it. But from everyone I've seen, it's Ndamukong Suh, it's Charles Woodson, it's Travis Hunter, it's Tyrann Mathieu. Like, those are the four for me. Ed Reed, another one. I'd be here all day if I tried to name them all. But Ndamukong Suh, number one with a bullet for me. And some of that is I was in Nebraska. I was covering the Huskers at the time. So I had a front row seat to that. Not a literal front row seat, but I watched all those games in 2009 where he should have won the damn Heisman. He was the best player in the country. That Nebraska team was quarterbacked by future plumbers and had no business being any kind of good. And they went to the Big 12 championship game and would have won it if the refs hadn't screwed him on time. Anyway, Mark B. points out that he was one of the dirtiest players in the game. That was true in the NFL. He didn't really have that reputation as a dirty player in college. He really didn't. He just ate you alive in college. Just did whatever he wanted on the football field. Best I've ever seen. Back to Lawrence from earlier today, KU Football Media Day. Jim Zebrowski. Love listening to Jim Zebrowski talk. He had a lot to say about his offense. He's excited about the KU offense, and he should be. Here's Jim Zebrowski from KU Football Media Day earlier today.
We talked about the camp that Jalen has had and being really strong. What have you seen from him, and how has he impressed?
Leadership, growth, I believe. I think the new group of receivers kind of maybe got him kind of hits his team. Like he been here 5 years. You know, some made kind of comments like coach and me and him have been together probably one of the longest tenured groups of people in those positions. I think the natural growth of him becoming a better leader, being able to speak, get guys to do more, how you say it, kind of be in that position of not as much Peyton Manning, be able to get on people and be confident about that. I think that's the biggest thing growth wise. I'm really excited about that.
You talked about when we got you earlier this fall how Jalen maybe pressed a little bit when things weren't going as well for him a year ago, and yet some of the best things that he does are off schedule and creating something out of nothing. How do you balance that as a coach to kind of let him do the things that he does really well while also at the same time, maybe reining in some of the pressing?
That's a great question. I always tell people, I tell you guys this before, it's like there's this line, and we're just talking about people like Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys. There's this line where, as a quarterback, you got to figure out where the line is, where greatness is great, and then over the line you become bad things. Really, you can go down really fast. So in practice, you got to keep testing that line. I think the good thing we do in practice is put kids in situations, 2-minute situations, end of game situations. Just let them kind of press. There's going to be some mistakes. There's going to be some bad plays, but kind of get a feel for what he is comfortable with, what I'm comfortable calling for him. I think that's the best way to be able to get that done. So that's the exciting part. It's hard sometimes. Like I said, learning stinks sometimes. It's hard sometimes. Max, you're like, ooh, that's not good. But you also figure out what kids can and can't do. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to let kids fail in practice to find it so they won't fail on Saturday, if that makes sense. So I think that's where it's been more fun to kind of see it. And we're not going to call that, oh, he likes that. And it's been great.
You talked about how Jalen has looked more locked in and more serious in his demeanor. How's that kind of translated onto the field?
I think communication-wise, you kind of feel it. Him talking more. I say this kind of, he talks more like a coach now. Like me and him can talk about, hey, what do you see this, coach? I see this. What do you like? I can tell him now, like, hey, what do you want to see? Hey, I want to see this, coach. Or coach, I want to see this in this 2-minute drill. I got to get this throw in. And the good thing is he knows what throws he hasn't made yet. Like, coach, I need more reps on this. So it's not necessarily, because you never try to beat your defense in practice. You're trying to get yourself prepared for the season. So sometimes it's great now is his communication. Like, coach, I haven't thrown this route or run this option play or done this run game RPO type deal. You mind putting that? I want to see that. Now that's the kind of relationship we have now. It's like, what do you need? I need this, coach. And we can sit down and say, hey, what do you like on third down? I think this week, these 2 plays will be really good. Yeah, I'm with you. So a lot more of a kind of collaboration and him knowing our offense so well that he can just collaborate. Yeah, coach, I think I like this concept. Well, let's do it.
What is your plan for this year adapting to the loss of Devin Neal?
Daniel LaShawn. That's our plan, which is a good plan. And besides the rest of the guys, I think it's really cool. I don't know if that's the right word to say, but it's pretty impressive to have a kid like Devin graduate and go on, and I hope he does great things, and have two guys behind him. Picking up LaShawn and having Daniel Highshaw is like, that's just such a bonus. And you guys have seen Daniel at his best and how excited you are. I think he's in as good a shape in the however long he's been. He looks great in terms of just changing direction, and he's worked so hard. He's great in pass pro. His hands have gotten better. I'm so excited about him. Then you have LaShawn that comes in there and like, geez Louise, like you got two guys who learned. One guy learned from Devin, seen him. Another guy who's played a different spot comes and picks things up really fast. So I think we're in a great spot. I'm really excited about that room, those two guys. Let alone all the guys, those two guys, pretty fun.
Question about the running backs. What's kind of going to dictate usage pattern at that position? You don't have that clear 1A like Devin was last year. Is it situational, hot hand? You have certain stuff that fits certain backs better. What's going to dictate that?
Combination. And I think about J-Wall does a good job. We've talked about this. I think we all feel the same way. It's like you like to get guys the ball. You don't want, you hate to not have a guy get some reps early, if that makes sense to you. Like not playing a guy and all of a sudden doesn't get there. It's like, you like to play them both early and get them involved in the game. So I think you'll see them both pretty early in most games. Kind of give them a chance to get touches, and away we go. I think it's really hard for any position all of a sudden not play for a while, all of a sudden get in there midway through the second quarter or something. So I think that's kind of the plan. There'll be something, of course, they might do something better than the other one or whatnot, but they both do things really well. So it's not going to be much, I don't think, play specific. It's like, hey, let's get, whatever series we decide, J-Wall decides, and we decide as a group, great, let's do it. So I think you'll see them both a good amount.
Hey, Coach, Lance Leipold told us earlier with the new guys that the wide receiver group would be something that fans would notice right away. What have you seen from that group?
A group of guys that doesn't care who gets the ball and plays for each other. I've really seen that. And that's not, I don't know if that's always normal everywhere, especially when you got guys from a bunch of different programs coming in that probably have all gotten the ball a lot or believe that they should have. These guys all come in and there's kind of like, they just want an opportunity to prove themselves. They've all kind of grown and play for each other. It's really impressive. You're going to see a group of guys who really love playing that doesn't care. None of them care who gets the ball or what they're going to block for each other. They're going to play for each other. I've seen this group of guys run off routes to help their teammates get open 100 miles per hour. When they know probably they're not getting the ball, those kind of moments. So I think that's what I'm really impressed about, the group of kids who have I believe they really, really, really like each other and want to perform well and are just as excited when they make a play as excited as they are for their teammates making that play as if they were making the play. And that's what those little things get me excited because they all got their own strengths and weaknesses, their strengths obviously. But it's fun to watch them all just kind of play different positions and just roll guys in and out.
The offensive line again, Coach Paulson had mentioned last week, because of those competitions, you have more depth and maybe you could consider rotating more than in years past. I was wondering what's kind of your perspective or philosophy on rotating on the offensive line.
I don't mind it. I believe that if guys are similar, and I believe what Coach Paulson says the same thing, if they're very similar, I don't see why you don't. I don't think if that makes sense. Like I know everybody talks about continuity and these five guys. Well, when you rotate within practice the way we rotate anyways, the continuity is happening. So I don't think that's as big a deal as for some people. If a guy never plays with somebody else, all of a sudden you throw them in. We throw guys in all the time. So it's always happening. Just like the receiver world, guys are playing with these different groups of receiver all the time. So it's like a constant, they're used to it. So I don't see any reasoning why if guys are really close, and I think we've done it before, but we have no problem with the guy plays 2 series, the other guy plays 2 series, and away you go. That doesn't affect me at all. It doesn't make me, I'm excited about it because that means I think both of them are good. I think you struggle up there, neither one of them are good or as good as they could be. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like, trying to find the answer. Like, hey, you had 2 guys who are playing really well. Good playing both.
That was Jim Zebrowski. How about the defensive coordinator, DK McDonald? Here's what he had to say.
When it comes to being a first-year coordinator, even though you've been around the program, how have you kind of put your identity into the defense you want to see out on the field?
Yeah, the big thing is getting our guys to play fast, physical, and for each other. that's been a big thing, getting guys to buy in. Hopefully when you get a chance to see us play, you get a chance to kind of see that imprint on the game, that our guys are playing fast, that they are playing physical, and that we're doing a great job of communicating and really playing for one another. And so hopefully that's what you'll get a chance to see our guys do. And I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about how our guys have really grown and really started to really become one unit. And that's what I'm really wanting them to do out there. And, you got some transfers that are in, got some guys that have been around the program. So we're really gelling together well and really looking to play some great defense here at Kansas.
Communication. Who are the guys that have stood out to you that have been good communicators out in the field with so many transfers, as you mentioned?
Yeah, a big thing about us on defense that we always stress communication. Even here in this meeting room that we have, we expect guys to speak at a volume that's acceptable. People who speak at a high volume usually produce confidence when the defense, so that's really good. In our meetings, our guys are expected to speak loud. So we start that in the meetings, in the classrooms, then it's on the field. Guys are constantly talking. So we got a lot of communicators. Our linebackers had to communicate. Our safeties got to communicate. Our corners. It's everybody out there because the defense that doesn't communicate is a bad defense. So in order to be a great defense, you got to be one that communicates. And like I said, that's a part of us playing for each other. So that's what we do, and that's what we want to be known for, as a group that communicates.
With Kobe and Mello or Kenny before that, there's always been sort of that face of the secondary. Did you have any conversations with Jalen Todd? I mean, got here early, played early, is that dude that has maybe that potential. Did you guys ever talk about that for him? And is that too early to do?
Oh, really, the talk with him is just trying to be the best version of Jalen Todd that he can be, and if that is becoming, the vocal leader, then yeah, we will expect him to be that. And, he's more of a quiet kid, but he kind of leads by example. But there are some other guys who kind of stepped up and really became some vocal leaders. But, when something needed to be said, Jalen spoke up with the group and said it, and he plays at such a high standard that, he expects the other guys to do that. And that's what I really like about him. But Lyric's done a good job there. Landon Nelson has done a good job stepping in. Taylor Davis has done a good job in the back end doing some stuff. Saeed Gibbs is a vocal young man. The Dye brothers have done a great job. And like I said in the previous question, man, we expect our guys to communicate and lead. That's not something that's a given. That's something that they have to do. And that's demanded here. And so we don't put that on just one guy. And when Kobe and Mello was here, we didn't just put that on them. We expected OJ to do that. We expected Marvin Grant to do that, And so when you demand a lot of people do it, you get more out of everybody. And that's what we expect. I think it's too much to ask one guy to be the one leader or be the one guy communicating. I think in this day and age, you can't have that. Everybody has a role to play in communication for us to be great.
Things on the defensive line. First of all, everyone's spoken really highly of Leroy Harris and how he's played since arriving. I'm just wondering, what have you seen from him since he came on campus and now has put himself in a position to play?
Yeah, Leroy is, he's one of those guys. He has a great motor, great size. He's put on quite a bit of weight since he's been here too, which is great. And, we talked about bringing in transfers, and he's just one of those guys. Him and Alex were, the new guys that the new guys, I guess you could say, that we brought in. And they both been great. Love having them. They play so hard. You wish you can duplicate those type of guys, man, because Leroy and Alex both play hard, and they're going to be great for us this year. I'm really excited to see what they do for us this coming year. They're both very smart, and they both love football, and they both play very hard. And so I'm really excited that they're here in the Jayhawks.
Lance had mentioned that Blake and Gage haven't practiced much recently. What have you seen from the other guys in their absence?
That's the beauty. Like we said, we have some depth this year. Now, how that ends up playing out throughout the season, we'll see. But that's the fun part, is that when somebody goes down, we got some other guys who can step in and play at a high level. So that's really good. I think that's going to continue to bring out the best in those guys who are, working themselves back into the lineup and everything like that. So that's been a good thing. We got depth, and I look forward to seeing how all that plays.
That was DK McDonald speaking earlier today, the new defensive coordinator for the Jayhawks at KU's Football Media Day. We'll take one last time out, come back and wrap up 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Time to wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk for this Thursday, August 14th. Thank you so much for spending the time hanging out with me this afternoon here on 580 Sports Talk. For my final word today, I want to go back to what we talked about at the very top of the show today, what we learned from Kansas City Chiefs camp. And the thing that continues to impress me about the way that the Chiefs go about their business, the way that they've gone about their business for the better part now of the Andy Reid / Patrick Mahomes era, is their professionalism, their focus on the here and now and attention to that rather than lingering or dwelling on the past, and their ability, I think, that exists in 2025 for them to be a better football team. Because I do think they are going to be more explosive on offense. I think they will force more turnovers on defense this coming year. I think they have the potential to do that. And that's going to give them a chance to score more, to win by some wider margins. Ask yourself this. Chiefs went 15-2 last year. It was a heart attack of a 15-2 season. It was a lot of really close ones, a lot of nail biters, a lot of games came down last play, last drive. This team might not win 15 games because it's hard as hell to win 15 games. There's a lot that needs to go right to win 15. Like, you got to block the field goal at the horn, or you got to have the other team fumble a snap while driving into field goal range for a winning kick. There's a lot that has to go right to win 15 games. This could be a 13-4 Chiefs team. I think it's a tougher schedule. I think the division got better. They could be 12-5 or 13-4, but I think more of those wins, those 12 and 13 wins that I would expect for the Chiefs in 2025 are going to be comfortable, are going to be stretch your legs, get Patrick and Travis and Chris and all those guys off the field in the fourth quarter kind of wins. I think they have that kind of capacity in them for 2025. And Chiefs fans, I bet you'd take that trade-off. 15 wins and they're all nail-biters, or would you rather have 13, but like 8 or 9 of them are butt kickings? I think I know which one I'd prefer. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 6. My name is Dan Lucero, and this was 580 Sports Talk. Good night!